Call to order. The regular meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, December 10th, 2018 will be called to order at 7 p.m. At this time, would everyone willing and able please stand for the invocation given by Alderwoman Pendell Charles, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let us bow our heads. God, as we continue to surround ourselves with the wonderment of this holiday season, and as we recently celebrated the falling of our former president, a kinder and gentler presidency, and as we embark upon the anticipation of a new year, let us be ever mindful to follow the ABCs of good living and good governance. Let us be attentive and not aimless, benevolent and not baseless, considerate and not cold, discerning and not disruptive, encouraging and not erratic, flexible and not fearful, grateful and not gloomy, helpful and not hostile. Let us have integrity and not be insensitive. Let us be just and not judgmental, kind and not killers of a dream, rather a listener and not just a looker. Let us be motivated and not malicious, necessary and not narrow-minded, objective and not obsessive, problem solvers and not prejudgers, quick-witted and not quick-tempered, respectful and not rude, selfless and not selfish, thoughtful and not thoughtless, understanding and not uncaring. Let us be a voice for the voiceless, and let us be wise, excited, youthful, and zealots for those whom we represent and serve, as well as for our families, friends, and colleagues. God, we thank you for all of these blessings. Amen.
Don't pay any attention to us if we're nibbling on these delicious cupcakes that Regina has made for all of us. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley.
Here.
Alderwoman Tierney. Here. Alderman Payon.
Here.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles.
Here.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Present.
Alderman Rodriguez. Alderwoman Henson. Present. Alderman Savage.
Present.
Alderman Arnett.
Present.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the first item on the agenda.
The first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended to postpone City Council citation for Galway Bay, the 20th anniversary, and Federal House. Guys aren't here? Anybody from those? They're busy, yeah. For the Federal House's Thanksgiving meal, Annapolis feed, until January 14th, 2019, and City Council meeting, and to postpone O-8-18 on second reader until February 11th, 2019 City Council meeting.
Second.
Is that a motion?
We need a motion first, then a second.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to postpone 08-18 with just a few comments, if I may.
Sure.
I just first want...
Point of order?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's my motion.
She has a motion and a second.
shouldn't that be done when we deliberate on the ordinance?
She's explaining her motion, so give her a second and then we'll have discussion.
Yeah, I'm just explaining very briefly. My motion is that I just want to thank my colleague, Alderman Savage, for bringing this legislation out of committee due to the 90-day rule, and pursuant to City Code Section 2.16090B, we can propose a motion to postpone to date certain or to adopt or defeat. And I make a motion to propose to postpone it to a date certain of February 11th, 2019. Thank you.
So discussion, Alderman Savage? No. Did you want to? Alderman Annette?
So, I know we have a habit of postponing things, but I'd like to know why we're postponing it. If we're postponing it with some proactive intent, I'd like to hear that and I might support that. But just to postpone it, while it's on the agenda, I cannot possibly support that. So are we postponing it so that we can do something, or are we just postponing it because we don't want to vote on it?
I know, well, I've reached out to the incoming elected officials to meet with Stuart Pittman's administration, with Alice Kane, with Lisa Rodovan, to get input from this new incoming council so that we can work on a roadmap together. I think Ellie did
Yeah,
the same.
May I
Yes.
explain?
Alderman.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for the time, Mr. Mayor. My colleagues, I've followed this legislation for several years, and it reached a level of public awareness during the Crystal Springs debate. It has morphed into legislation that will help our overcrowded schools that no one, let me repeat, no one can argue is a problem at our middle and high school level. As such, I supported it as a candidate, seeing the urgency in school planning versus impending development. However, in reviewing this proposed legislation, I had to step back and review the intent of the entire code. Per our current code, the objective of adequate facilities is to assure that development and redevelopment occurs in concert with the capital improvement program and will enable the city to provide adequate public facilities in a timely manner and achieve the growth objectives of the comprehensive plan as defined in Title 21. This review also includes fire, police, utilities, transportation, etc., as defined in the adequate facilities legislation. As is our typical pattern, we seem to be at a critical mass with all of the aforementioned required support for development. One could argue, where is our public transportation? Where are police? Why don't impact fees and taxes cover adequate facilities? Where is the system broken? How did we get here? So please, let's not hurt ourselves in reacting to a problem we may have created, stalling any tax base in the meantime by not looking at it comprehensively. Reacting to just one component or towards select developments is not a comprehensive solution to the lack of adequate facilities for development, which in certain cases we will need. Think residential infill, adaptive reuse, and affordable housing. If passed, we don't have a clear path forward on addressing classroom size, nor do we have a collective agreement of future development within city limits. I asked for a city council work session for just that reason, but it defaulted into an anti versus pro development argument. So why postpone? We have a new county executive who supports smart growth, education, and public transportation, and I see no reason to get ahead of the county of codifying a percentage we know will stop development or at least pause it indefinitely. And let's think about schools. We need a new high school. One could argue that residential development introduces a tax base and impact fees. We need to restructure our impact fees so that it goes towards our schools, whether we build a public or perhaps a charter one. I see the urgency in revising our comprehensive plan in concert with the county's plan under new leadership and in the best interest of city taxpayers. I'd like to hear all arguments, but I don't believe we are there yet, but we can't wait any longer for that discussion. Thank you.
Alderman Annette?
So, Mr. Mayor, I want to go back. Do I understand you have reached out to certain council members to meet with the county executive and the newly elected county people?
So we're trying to get on their calendars so that we can all
Who
work on
is
a
we?
comprehensive plan. As many people as want to be involved, of
Oh,
course. We
okay.
all care about this issue, right?
All right.
We all agree that we have overcrowding in the schools, we need to fix it. So I think we'll work together with the new council to get a plan done. That's why we set a date instead of just putting it out into the distance.
A
or
date
killing
is,
it, yeah.
a date is fine, but I would like a plan. Just postponing to be in the exact same position on February whatever, as you know from our discussion at lunch, is not enough. This is a serious issue. All of the adequate facility issues are serious issues. This is one that has been languishing for 6 months. We could have taken this action 4 months ago or even 2 months ago, and the 11th hour, when the legislation is about to time out, all of a sudden we come up with this. I sincerely would like to see an explicit plan for what we're going to do, who we're going to do it, and when we're going to do it, so that we're not in this same position in February.
I agree.
Who's gonna do that plan?
Alderman Savage?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily opposed to this if it's gonna keep things moving, but it is kind of frustrating because this was introduced, put together in January and accepted on first reader in February. So we've had a while, you know, and I think like Alderman Arnett said, everything's coming out here in the past 2 weeks. This has been out here for a while to get people's suggestions and to get into the details at the committee levels. It's been to a couple of different committees. So it's a bit frustrating, but I think we do need to, I think the APF code, I think it does need improvement in many different parts of it, but I think we need to treat those separately. We need to update the APF as it relates to traffic, as it relates to transportation, apparently as it relates to our open space too, but I don't think we need to do these piecemeal, not all together at once. And right now we've had many of us, probably even a majority of us, I think, made a pledge during our campaigns to address this issue. And we're trying to, I think we do think it's a good idea to meet with the county, but we're just trying to get us on the same foot as the county, the same level, same 100% that they have as the county. We're not even arguing, we're not even from the same standpoint with them. And that's certainly the intent that the representative from the school district made clear Rules and Government was it prefers to be on the same page as them when it comes to this ordinance. Is I think, again, something that many of us ran on was trying to mitigate the impacts from overdevelopment. We passed no-net loss, but there's also this obvious big impact on our schools and overcrowding. And this is really our best option, our best way to kind of address that issue, because it's also a county issue, but we are limited because they're county schools. But I do want to also get into, you know, I think we need to get away from the idea of just, we need more tax base, we need more tax base. I don't think all of us are necessarily on the same page when it comes to tax base, and I think we need to hold up there and say, well, providing high quality schools for our children is just as much, and I'd argue even more important than increasing our tax base. We need to be providing and improving the standard of living that we have here in Annapolis for everyone. And so we really, I think, can't delay too long on this. And I really encourage us to try to, you know, talk about what's fair. You know, I think we need to look at what's fair for our parents and what's fair for our children. I've got a 8-year-old who's going to be going to Annapolis High School, and I want to be able to say that I've done what I can to improve that situation. So again, as long as we're moving in the right direction, I'm okay with that.
Alderman Pan? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with an awful lot of what my colleague from Ward 7 just said. I think that part of what he said actually is a good argument for continuing the matter until February the 11th. I think that if it were just the 100%, changing it, the capacity to 100%, that I would likely support that tonight, but the devil's in the details. And, you know, does this really parallel the county ordinance? And I found that in several respects it does not. I think that with the new county executive coming in, frankly, if our former county executive had been reelected, I think we all pretty much know, you know, where the county is and where they would likely be for the next reasonable amount of time. But I, for one, don't really know that, and I don't want to pass something tonight only to have a month from now there be some fairly substantial changes as, well, some people might say, as has been promised by the new county executive. And I think if we have the opportunity to get to know where he's going on this issue in particular, I disagree that we could have done this 4 or 6 months ago. I don't think it would have been, certainly I don't think it was ready to go 6 months ago. 4 months ago, well, things were still pretty much up in the air. For an election, the timing isn't the best. I mean, maybe it should have been done a year ago. I don't know, but it hasn't been. We have the situation we're dealing with right now. You know, I recall last October, not this past, but of 17, we passed an ordinance that involved the more or less redoing the way things are brought in front of the Planning Commission when there's zoning alterations involved. And I thought it was unconstitutional then, and sure enough, it took Judge Harris about 10 minutes to declare it unconstitutional. And we're still don't have an agreement as to what that law can be. We've ended up losing more time by going ahead and voting on that matter that night. A couple of months ago, my colleague from Ward 7 introduced what by and large was an excellent bill regarding styrofoam, and I found something that I also thought was a little bit questionable in it, and he had the good graces to come back 2 weeks later, much to his credit, and say, yeah, we need to change that. But we're not going to have that opportunity to come back in 2 weeks, I don't think, if we do something that we really don't mean or don't want to do with this. I told him then that I was going to vote for the styrofoam. I wasn't going to let the one detail get in my way of doing it, and I keep my promises. I said that with an explanation, which didn't come printed out, and that I would be supportive of this legislation, making it just like the counties. The problem is I don't think it's just like the counties, and I would like some time to maybe we'll never get it exactly like the counties, maybe we shouldn't, but it's certainly largely like it, but there's some details that I think need to be worked out and can easily be done by February the 11th, and I would be supporting continuing the matter relatively briefly, and hopefully at that time I'll be able to go forward and with a vote that I think my colleague from Ward 7 will likely be happy with, but I don't go back on my word, but I don't think this is the right time to vote on it because there are too many possible changes on the horizon. We should know a lot more about it by February 11th in answer to Alderman Arnett's question about where we think we'll be on February 11th.
Alderman Finlayson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. During our lunch today, we had an opportunity to also discuss this legislation, and it is inconsistent with the county's code. And I asked our city manager if she would kind of outline, since she has experience in both the county and the city, to help us see the differences so that there's no mistaking how this legislation presents a different situation, pros and cons. Mr. Mayor, if I might ask our city manager to tell us about this.
Thank you. I prepared a handout that's coming around, a two-sided handout. I'll wait till you all have it, and then I'll briefly go over the differences between the existing county law and the proposed bill that's before you.
I did.
So under the proposed bill, there is a school utilization chart. It's in the existing code. Under the city law, it's revised by the Planning and Zoning Director every January 1st and July 1st, and there's no city council approval required. In the second column, for the county, it's revised by the Planning and Zoning Officer every May 1st and September 1st, and it is adopted by the county council by ordinance no later than November 30th each year. The school utilization chart in the city is based on the Board of Ed rated capacity, based on program requirements, plus future capacity if there's a contract for construction, and that's going to happen before the new development is built, compared to existing enrollment, plus enrollment,
projected from the new development and in the next 3 years. Capacity does not include temporary or relocatable structures. County law is similar. It's based on state-rated capacity versus the enrollment projected by the Board of Ed in their most recent educational facilities master plan, plus the new students projected from the new development. In the city, under the proposed ordinance, an elementary or middle school is closed when enrollment plus the new students in the third year are 95% or greater than the state-rated capacity. At the county, it's the same thing, 95% in the third year. Our current code is 105%. The bill is 95%. For high schools, our bill is at 95%. County law is 100%. So county law allows greater capacity. When a project meets APF is if it's in the city. Let me start with the county. In the county, it's open if all the schools in the attendance area are open on the chart and the number of students from the proposed development doesn't exceed 85% of the available seats. In our bill, it meets APF if all the schools are open. There is no requirement that the number of students from the new development can't exceed 85% of the available capacity. If you turn the page over, here we test for APF when the Planning and Zoning Director gives site plan approval, or if it's major site design or plan development, when the certificate of adequacy is granted at the time the project goes to the Planning Commission. At the county, they have their choice of testing for APF either when they submit their application or when it's reviewed for final plan or site development approval. On the wait list, in both cases, the applicant's entitled to go onto a wait list for no more than 6 years, after which they can move forward even if the schools are not adequate. Exemptions from the APF in the bill proposed before you and in the existing code both. Developments of 11 dwelling units or fewer are exempt at the city. In the county, it's 5 or fewer. Age-restricted housing is exempt in both cases. In the city, Arts District and Main Street are exempt. In the county, the Odenton Growth Management Area and the Pearl Town Center are exempt. The county bill, has a provision that it expires on January 1, 2020, or when the general development plan is adopted, whichever comes first, and our ordinance has no sunset provision. So those are the differences between the bill before you and the county law. I will add that if one jurisdiction's law is more restrictive than the other, it creates winners and losers. So if our law is more restrictive than the county, it means we won't be able to develop under our law, and they will be able to develop. And when they develop, that's going to take up those seats at Annapolis High and the Annapolis area schools. Likewise, if they were more restrictive than us, we would be allowed to develop, and we would be taking up those seats at the schools that the city feeds into. So when the two jurisdictions have differing laws, one's going to be a winner and one's going to be a loser in terms of who can develop and who can't.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I think it's pretty clear that there are serious inconsistencies between our law proposed and the county's. And as you've said, with the new administration, it would be smart of us to work with them so that we're all on the same page, so that there aren't any winners and losers, but everybody's a winner. So I seconded that motion to remove this until February the 11th.
Alderwoman Henson.
I'd just like to add my 2 cents that delays are not insignificant, especially when you're talking about a school year and students. When we look at 2 projects that could be affected, one in Ward 7, it's a 42 townhouse development, the other in Ward 3. It is 90 apartments and or condos and 68 townhouses that are currently going through their review process. Those are not insignificant in terms of what they could add to our schools and to the feeder system. And in the terms of a school year and what the delay could mean coming back in February, that time is not insignificant. I don't believe that our code has to exactly mirror the county. There are differences in the city in what we are able to provide, differences in what the county is able to do with their flexibility, the land mass that the county has. So I don't know that it is even that our goal is to have our code mirror the county. I do thank Ms. Sutherland for doing that very detailed comparative analysis to it really boils it down for us to see where there are areas where we can pick and choose from what the county has to offer, and for the mayor and your leadership in reaching out to the new county executive to make sure that we have the opportunity to come to the table and have some sort of collaborative agreement there to work with them. So I do commend and thank each of you for your efforts there.
Alderman Pindell-Charles?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Although I always recuse myself of voting for the Anne Arundel County Public Schools legislation because I do work there full time, I just want to add my 3 cents worth in. One thing I want to just make everyone cognizant of, Rolling Knolls Elementary School as well as Annapolis Middle School are not within the city boundaries. But Annapolis Middle, 5 elementary schools that are within the city limits do feed into Annapolis Middle, as well as the children that reside in Admiral Oaks, which are within the city limits, go to school in Rolling Knolls. So I just wanted to add that little caveat to this discussion so we know that in some ways there's an overlap and possibly something that we need to consider. Thank you.
Alderman Arnett?
Yes, I want to thank you, Mayor, for amending the agenda so that we could discuss 0818 out of order. I think we've had a very good discussion. And
These guys are going to thank us.
I will support the motion to postpone.
Alderman Tierney?
I just want to, just for a moment, for record, I'm very captivated by the review of the county council annually of the school utilization chart. I think that's so important. I think that's what we lose sight of. I know, for example, when I was studying this legislation, it took me a while to find the utilization chart and find out, which one was the most current, et cetera. So I just don't want to lose sight of that means and methods, and we should revisit that when the time comes. Thank you.
Okay, so I promise you we're going to roll up our sleeves. I have a visit planned for us to a charter high school on Shanika's advice, so we're going to go through that. We will meet with all the newly elected officials. Dr. Alado is getting us comparative jurisdictions that had developers pay into high schools and primary schools and that, so we have something to sort of go on. So we'll all work hard through January. I just don't want this to be a thing that creates a bigger chasm in the two Annapolises. So I want to make sure that the only thing we're going to just build is just $1 million houses, and they're the only people who can be able to afford to build in this house or do anything in this town. So thank you. So I'm going to call a vote. All those in favour of the postponement say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Recuse.
Okay.
And thank you, Ms. Sutherland.
Thank you, Teresa.
Okay.
We still have to vote on the agenda.
So I need a motion for the agenda as amended, sorry.
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right.
Oh, Pete, is Pete leaving?
Has to go home.
Okay, cupcake time.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is ceremonial items, beginning with a presentation by Paul Jacobs, President, Annapolis Boat Shows.
I've done this before. Good evening, Mr. Mayor Buckley and members of the council. I'm Paul Jacobs. I'm with the Boat Shows. I have the privilege every year about this time to come in and give my State of the Boat Show address, but it's really about doing a little of that and presenting a check, and so tonight I'm going to do the same. I want to let you know that our shows continue to be strong. We are now, you know, the only remaining sailboat show left in America, in addition to our spring show. All other sailboat shows in America have gone to both combined sail and power. We're still the only pure sailboat show in America, and still the largest one in the world. Although we have one that's whose stated objective is to become the number one, so they'll have to come through us. Our powerboat show is the largest show in north of Florida in America, and both are very strong. Have come back very strong after a devastating recessionary period for a while, and now it's beginning to level off again, by the way. So we're seeing that they are remaining strong, but we're seeing some leveling off. We have calculated that there's a contribution of over $110 million in economic impact during these 2 weeks in October. We serve the needs of about 24 nonprofit organizations through their fundraising efforts in and outside and around the show. We employ 120 workers at our peak and about 20 independent contractors. We create some commerce in Annapolis, and that's a big thing. People are coming from basically every state in the union and 27 foreign countries to experience our shows. They spend money to support our regional maritime industries, and they are introduced to our city when they're here. It really does take a village to create an event like this, and I want to thank various individuals and city departments that have stepped up this year and really helped when they were needed. There was more city police presence around the show this year than I've seen, and I thought it was important. They were engaging, they were helpful with both our staff and with our visitors. It was a big help. Public Works, David's people, we had several projects we needed some help, and they stepped up and helped us with that. And the city's communications department, along with Visit Annapolis, did a great job of supporting the shows and promoting them leading up to them. So we're grateful for that help. We need that help. It all contributes to this overall effort that we put forth here. Unfortunately, we're also facing challenges. I talked about the competition from other shows. We have a shrinking exhibitor space on a small scale basis, and there are several examples that I've given you and what I left on your desk there. But they're small things. There's some development. There's some infrastructure growth. There's some things like that. They take away from the space. We have to be careful that we have to worry about that. But more importantly, we have to worry about this constant what used to be called nuisance flooding. It's now catastrophic flooding. It's absolutely killing us. We simply can't build a show in certain areas in 3 days anymore. There are certain parts of this show that take longer. We're flooring over so many thousands of square feet of city streets and sidewalks and platforms and flooring that our crews are working 24/7 leading up to it, and they can't quite do it. I'm going to have to ask for some help there, and we'll have discussions about that. I think starting later this week, as a matter of fact, we've got some discussions starting. So it's rapidly increasing, as you know, and it's really doing some harm, not just to me, but to business in downtown. So little story is that, our company over the last couple of years have committed to many, many more years of doing boat shows in downtown Annapolis. In the meantime, we've also made a big commitment to a long-term lease on a building at 110 Compromise for our offices in downtown. So I get up in the morning and I turn the television on, and the first thing I see is the camera from the top of the Marriott showing Dock Street completely underwater from the Birdhouse to Randall Street, no cars in the parking lot. The news person is saying, downtown streets are closed. It would be better if you avoid downtown. The city VMS boards are saying Compromise Street is closed, and it closed at Newman Street. And oh, by the way, that's exactly where my new office is. So, so that's kind of the sort of thing I I face all the time, and I'm not the only one. I just have to worry about, that a couple of weeks a year. Everybody else is dealing with it, 52 weeks a year. Another little story, we did a little experiment this year, and we didn't spend much money at it, but we got some help from the Public Works folks, and my partner, Bob Crane, had an idea to put a circle around a couple of the drains, and we were able to stem the flow, the backflow of water coming up out of, the high tide water that backflows up through the drains. We were able to slow that down, and then we put some little pumps at the low end, which is the area outside of the harbor master's office, and we were pumping water back into Eagle Alley. Well, it didn't fix it, but it was a pretty feeble little effort that we made to do it as well, and it did help. Doing something will help. It doesn't have to be the entire job all at one time. We don't have to wait until after 2020 to do half, and something will help. And so I would ask that people start talking in those terms. This needs to be taken care of now, obviously, but I know I'm preaching to the choir in many cases here. But people still come. They continue to fill the hotels and restaurants. They sample our food and drinks. They take historic tours, and they just enjoy being here. This is a fun place to have a boat show. And so they continue to come to Annapolis each fall and fill up our town. Next year is our 50th anniversary. This will be the 50th, and the in-water boat show was invented in Annapolis 50 years ago. So this will be the 50th in Annapolis. We need to work together to make it a really the best one there is. So, as you know, what we do is we share in the revenue generated from ticket sales. And the formula says that you get half. So, and then we reimburse for some city expenses. And this year, the check that I'm bringing to you is in the amount of $447,190.14. So,
Thank you, Santa.
That will help flooding.
thank you.
Mr. Jacobs, I have a question.
See you both.
Mr. Jacobs, I have one question. Yes. You had mentioned some items that I assume go toward your issue about the boat show kind of leveling off. Did you pretty much name them, or there's any other things that you think caused the leveling off to
Well,
occur?
I think, part of it's always market-driven, part of it's acts of God, there are all kinds of things that happen in boat shows too. There are a lot of things that are being scheduled now that are conflicting with the boat shows, whether it be Fleet Week in Baltimore, whether it be home games. I mean, these have all these kinds of things have gone on. We were afraid that that some of the trade war issues were going to really come into play. And we don't think in attendance it really did. We felt that we still had our Canadian friends that came down. We still felt that we were getting Europeans. But we feel like that may be becoming a problem. Our industry is being thrown under the bus just a little bit in this whole effort. So there are a lot of factors that come into play. We've been on a really nice increase of boat shows for the last 8 years. Since 2010, that's when we hit the bottom, really. It was 2 years after the recession started. And so this has, we've enjoyed some nice growth, and I think it was just taking a breather. Because the spring shows were great, both were very strong. Sailboat show was up, powerboat show just kind of dipped a little bit. So we're not concerned yet. We just have to be careful. We got to keep the competitive hammer down.
Well, thank you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the Thank you for the hospitality that you showed me when I was there. I had the opportunity to tour the boat show when I was the acting mayor when Gavin was away, and I do appreciate it. You took me on a tour of the whole thing, and it was incredibly impressive. I've lived in Annapolis my whole life, and when you ride by as a person who lives here, you only kind of see the exterior in the advertisements, and you never quite know the mystery of what's behind everything there. If there is a way to kind of open that up and bring a little bit of diversity from people who live in the city to get an opportunity to experience that. I know that our mayor has the One Annapolis initiative, but it would be wonderful for people to kind of see. I know for you all it is a trade show, and the goal is to cater to the clients and people who experience it as to purchase there. But if there is a way to open that up and bring that experience to other people who live in Annapolis, I can't imagine that they wouldn't be just as impressed to see everything that you all have to offer and that's going on behind, you know, the veil that's there. But thank you personally for the hospitality that you showed me when I had the opportunity to be there. I do appreciate it.
I'm glad you were able to see it, and thank you for coming. And by the way, we do tour groups through that you know, quite often. If we have college groups that do production of events, and they come through. We have a French immersion group that comes through. We have a lot of French boats, and I mean there are a lot of different kinds of groups that come through, and we always would welcome that. So if you know of those kinds of people, kids particularly, send them on.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe Boys and Girls Clubs, some
Sure.
groups like that to come through. I think that would be a great experience.
Part of it that would be really interesting for them also is just the way the show is built, the way it's put together, how we assemble it in, you know, 3.5, 4 days, whatever it is. And you know, the effort that goes into doing that and the kinds of jobs that are available for that. And I mean, it's the whole thing is fascinating. I still love watching it.
Thank you.
Alderman Savage? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, first of all, thank you for sharing in the check.
The
for
check,
sharing the
yes.
profit, yeah. But also I want to say thank you for your patience with us in terms of us addressing the rising sea and the flooding. You know, you may be aware, but we do have a plan funded. We're moving forward with the south pump on the Newman Street. Is that right? Newman? But in terms of the north pump, that's still, we're looking for the financing to help with that part.
We will expand our feeble efforts next year during the boat show, I will tell you, and try and stem some of that flow of water, because it really does make a difference. I think if you put in some real pumps and did some things, it might help. It won't fix it,
Yeah,
but
well,
it will help.
I would, yeah, definitely. You said you're meeting with some folks from the city.
We're meeting later this week on a couple of issues.
It might be worthwhile to bring in Public Works to see maybe there is something we could do on a temporary basis, maybe getting some tide check valves on certain, a couple of the pipes down there, but there may be more of a discussion to have along those lines.
I think a lot of it is going to require, you know, some major construction, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about Band-Aids. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about correcting a corrective action completely, but it helped.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one comment and one question. One comment is you do an exemplary job of proving that you do not have to bring your car to the belly of the beast. I mean, that whole shuttle system you got going, I don't know what the trick is, but it works. So it's a great model of shuttling people downtown. My question is this home game conflict. Is that just coincidental? Is there, because it does, it's like a feast or famine, you know?
Well, you know, we've learned to work around it, of course, but the problem is that you know, if you get an Air Force game or a major game here, the hotels are filled, and you know, we get out and tell our people, get your hotels early, because you know, you have to. That's our parking.
Yeah.
The way we solve our parking is that everybody parks at the stadium. We run 17 and more buses all day long, you know, an hour before to an hour after. And so when that happens, then of course we lose our parking.
So there's no coordination, it just happens
No,
the
and
way
I
it
think
happens.
since the league, there's
It's
become the league, that they're more locked into a schedule, and they have
Sure.
less flexibility now than they used to. We've had some discussions, but there's never been any real solution established.
Okay, thank you.
Alderwoman Pindell Charles?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Mr. Jacobs, I'm going to follow up on Alderwoman Henson. I don't know if you read it in the paper, but we do pop-up camps. We started that this past summer for students who may not be aware or cannot get into our regular camps. We do a 3 or 4 hour pop-up camp. It may be, and through the city, we're gonna have Department of Planning and Zoning take kids on a tour downtown of the different buildings. There'll be a before and after kind of thing. This past summer, our chief Stokes through the fire department did a pop-up camp where we had about 10 children who came to the headquarters for the fire department to see how that is run and possibly give them some impetus into possibly going into the fire service. The police department do exceptional job. They take on at least 300 kids every summer in different kinds of camps throughout the season, as through the summer, as well as our Department of Recreation and Parks. But I know you have your boat shows in the fall and spring. Is there something that would give the children an opportunity to salivate that you could show them during the summer for a pop-up camp? You can think about that. And
Well,
get
we
back
do
to it.
have a work site that we have people working on. They actually building new floating docks and doing things like that. So there's some of that kind of activity going on. You know, the Marine Trades Association has a nice mentorship program, and they're always trying to find new people to bring into the workforce. So they're doing workforce development programs for maritime. There are things like that exist. In terms of what we do, I wouldn't wish this job on anybody else. I mean, no, I'm kidding. But there are things that we can expose groups of kids to in building skills and lift operations and, you know, things like that might be kind of interesting.
Okay, we can talk about that, and I'll
Sure.
depend on you to be our point person. Is that good?
I can do that too, yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for everything, Paul. Thank you. My favourite time of the year. Keep it up. Thank you so much. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is a proclamation to Elton Snowden.
Mr. Snowden and Sheila.
Good evening.
I'm gonna let Sheila do this.
That's all right. That's quite complimentary. You come there, you know what I mean?
So I will read the City of Annapolis proclamation. Whereas the Flames Family Association has dedicated decades of community service to the people of the City of Annapolis, and whereas the Flames help break down racial barriers and advocate for inclusion of all people in the recreational programs of the City of Annapolis, and whereas the Flames recruited and coached hundreds of flag football players through county, state, regional, and national games, bringing great pride to not only the African American community, but the entire City of Annapolis. And whereas local leaders and business owners have stepped up to volunteer, sponsor, and mentor the Flames, and whereas the Flames provided physical, mental, and spiritual guidance to hundreds of people in the city, and whereas the leaders of the Flames taught adults and children about self-respect and respect for others, and whereas the leaders of the Flames, including Mr. Elwood, Helton, I'm sorry, we'll have to fix that, Snowden, led the charge to push for civil rights in all communities. Now therefore I, Mayor Gavin Buckley, Mayor of the City of Annapolis, Maryland, do hereby proclaim December 10th, 2018 as the Flames Day in the City of
Yes,
Annapolis.
yes. Accomplishment. Very good. And I would also like to acknowledge, to a lot of people who weren't back in the day, so to speak, that I was also the one responsible for the City of Annapolis getting the union for the Public Works Department as quiet as it kept. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snowden.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is a city council citation, actually two of them, to the Maritime Republic of Eastport versus City of Annapolis Tug of War Challenge and Hats in the Belfry, 40th anniversary.
If you could all please come forward, please. Hats in the Belfry. All right. Let's get everybody up here. Joe Leary as well. All right. So first of all, for Hats in the Belfry, I'd like to give you this for your outstanding business, one of the coolest businesses downtown. So, on behalf of the citizens of the City of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you this City Council citation in recognition of your 40th anniversary at Hats in the Belfry. For decades, your business has offering hats of all shapes, sizes and styles to the citizens and visitors of Annapolis. Your collaboration on original design with the finest hat makers in the world gave your business an edge over the competition. We commend your constant presence on Main Street. As the world of retail continues to evolve, your business has successfully bucked national trends by offering unique and quality merchandise with outstanding customer service that keeps customers coming back year after year. Congratulations on this significant milestone, and we wish you great success. We look forward to the next 40 years. All right, we've got two things here, one for Naptown Events and one for the Maritime Republic of Eastport. It was a very exciting showdown this year, the slaughter across the water.
Winner,
These guys are all still talking to each other, which is a good sign.
It's kind of weird.
This year, the city side brought out their secret weapon, John O'Leary. And just to keep it interesting, I'm sure they threw the tug, right?
You know.
All right, so on behalf of the citizens of the City of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you this City Council citation in recognition of your outstanding efforts by the Maritime Republic of Eastport in a 2018 Eastport Tug of War MRE versus Annapolis Slaughter Across the Water. Despite your loss to the stronger, well-oiled machine of Naptown Events and the City of Annapolis, your efforts to raise more than $25,000 for local outstanding non-profits organisations are exemplary. MRE's dedication over the years to host this much-loved tradition has helped thousands of families, children and citizens of Annapolis through your generous donations from the proceeds of the tug. Thousands of people flock to your side of the creek each year to support this worthy cause and have a great time. We look forward to defending the city's victory in 2019.
There's a reason we let them win this time. So that they will come back next year and try to get it. Here it counts.
Hey, did you know that Hobbs Minor left?
And I'll just read this one out for, on behalf of the citizens of the City of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you this City Council citation in recognition of the outstanding efforts by Naptown Events to plan and execute a most impressive Annapolis party for the 2018 Eastport Tug of War MRE versus Annapolis Slaughter Across the Water. Not only was this year's event at City Dock a tremendous success, but your recruitment of talented, dedicated teams snatched the victory from the Maritime Republic of Eastport and won the City of Annapolis' coveted bragging rights for the entire year. We also commend your efforts to raise funds for charities that benefit from this yearly tradition. We look forward to defending the victory in 2019.
All right. Johnny O. Johnny O.
Thank you.
That's the bell for Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is petitions, reports, and communications, beginning with reports by committees.
Alderman Pion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Audit Committee will be meeting next Monday morning at 8 o'clock right here in the chambers. And we will be discussing matters that appear on our agenda, which I hope to have by this time tomorrow. The public is invited, and we'd love to hear some of their ideas. Since I don't have an agenda in front of me, I can't really tell you much more about it, but we will be meeting and hope to see a lot of people there. Thank you.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Rules and City Government Committee will meet tomorrow, December 11th at 4 o'clock here in council chambers. We'll be taking up two pieces of legislation, O3418, demolition by neglect, and R4618, application of the City of Annapolis stormwater regulations. So all are invited to attend.
Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Environmental Matters Committee will be meeting on December 19th, and I also don't have an agenda yet, but I think we'll be discussing the stormwater resolution that Alderman Finlayson mentioned, and also the fee in lieu resolution, possibly.
Alderman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Economic Matters Committee will be meeting this Thursday, December 13th at 4 p.m., and we'll be discussing the registration of vacant non-residential buildings. Thanks.
Sound like a man that's been taking law school exams. Especially when you don't listen, even look at me when I talk to you.
Just finished your exams.
Okay.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Thank you. The next meeting for the Transportation Committee will be January 17th at 6 p.m. as I got nothing to look at. So we'll be meeting January 17th. No legislation this month.
Alderwoman Pindell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two reports this evening to provide to everyone. As you all recall, back in June, Resolution 24-18 was passed, which is the Equal Protection Task Force for African American Residents. This is our first public report, which is mandated, a quarterly report for July through September, and this is to the mayor as well as my esteemed colleagues. The Equal Protection, and you each have a copy of this on your dais. The Equal Protection Task Force, I'm not going to read it all. The Equal Protection Task Force African American Residents initially met on Tuesday, September 25th, 6:30 to 7:30 at City Hall. Out of the 9 persons who were asked and have accepted to serve on the task force, 7 of them attended the first meeting. There were 2 valid absences, and they were duly noted. I also was in attendance. The following 9 persons have been selected to serve on the task force. Transportation, Ms. Barbara L. Harris. Education, Ms. Rita Dorsey Washington. Communication, Mr. Doug Smith. Economics and Finances, Mr. Randall Robinson. Social and Political Concerns, Bishop Craig Coates. Healthcare, Ms. Marcella Haskins-Hare. Housing, Ms. Bridget McLaughlin. City Services and Outreach, Mr. Adatoli Ajayi, who's the chair of this committee and is in the mayor's office. And we added 1 component which is workforce, and that's Ms. Sarah Ironman. And I have given you the bios of those people within your report. The task force made the decision to form a subcommittee with several focuses. So far, the following 3 persons will be serving on the task force's subcommittee: Mr. Raymond Medley, Public Health; Mr. Archie J. Trader III, Recreation, Exercise, Leisure, Nutrition, and Faith-Based Initiatives; and Mr. William Rao, Boards and Commissions. At this time, as of July to September, the meetings are scheduled for the last Tuesday of every month, 5 to 6 p.m. at City Hall. Part of the agenda for the remaining meetings in 2018 will include the selection of the vice chair and the secretary. The public is invited to all meetings. The meetings will be posted on the city's website. Thank you very much. And as I indicated, the chair is Adetola Ajayi from the mayor's office. I have had a couple of meetings with Alderman Rodriguez, and we are currently working on the immigrant task force as well. And so there should be a report forthcoming soon. Also, from the Public Safety Committee briefing report, our last meeting was on December the 3rd at 6 o'clock here in City Council Chambers. The board business before the committee was ID-307-18, which is our Annapolis Police Department update, written report and comments, year-to-date overdose summary, and we will be providing this information monthly from the fire department as well as from the police department. Date on hard street drugs, heroin, opioids: 34 drug overdoses in 2018, 21 drug overdoses in 2017, 12 fatal drug overdoses in 2018. Arrest trends and statistics in relation to phencylamine, which is PCP usage. Officers of the month were Police Corporal David Stokes and Lieutenant David Maguez. Annapolis Police Department strategic plan was presented. We indicated in a discussion block watcher ID numbers, so assignment, the Chief's Advisory Team, we discussed that, the Net Officer Program, as well as Drug Abuse Resistance Education, the DARE program. ID-308-18, Annapolis Fire Department update, written report and comments, year-to-date overdose summary: 454 drug overdoses, 127 emergency treatments administered of Narcan, being a narcotic blocker used to treat narcotic drug overdoses. 252 required an additional emergency treatment of Narcan to restore the individual. Safe Station program, which is designated as a safe environment for individuals looking for assistance to start their path to recovery from heroin or opioid addiction. In 2018, 152 individuals visited the Safe Stations. ID-311-18, Office of Emergency Management presentation, active assailant training, addresses of fatal overdoses include 900 block of Primrose, 100 unit block of Parole Street, 200 block of Janwall Street, 100 block of Clay Street, Ellington Drive, 1100 block of Madison Street, 1800 block of Poplar Avenue, and 900 block of President Street. Legislation before the committee: 0-41-18, emergency procurement for the purpose of authorizing the appropriation of funds for an emergency procurement and for establishing a procedure for the procurement of goods and services during an emergency. The vote was unanimous to recommend favorably to the entire body of City Council and Mayor. Our next scheduled meeting is for Monday, January the 7th, 2018 at 6 p.m. here in Council Chambers. Everyone is encouraged to attend or watch it on our Facebook Live. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is comments by the general public.
During the comments by the general public may speak on any item not scheduled for public hearing tonight. Legislation scheduled for public hearing is O-43-18, supplemental allocations, O-45-18, fair housing, unlawful housing practices, O-46-18, modification of use of expanded proceeds of certain of the city's general obligation bonds. So we have two speakers tonight. The first one is Jane Zorga? Zanga. Sorry, Jane, sorry.
No worries. And I need to say where I'm from, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. My name is Jane Zanger, and I live at 1030 Old Bay Ridge Road, Annapolis. I am here representing, good evening, I'm here representing Connecting the Dots, a multiracial coalition of citizens working to rectify past and present injustices and ensure that in Annapolis and throughout the county, everyone lives in safety with opportunity, equality, and justice. On December 21st, 1906, Henry Davis, a 30-year-old African-American man, was dragged from the city jail on Calvert Street by a group of white Annapolitan vigilantes in violation of the law. According to newspaper reports from the time, this group quickly became a veritable mob of angry white people who proceeded to tie a noose around Mr. Davis's neck, hang him, and then shoot him more than 100 times. Mr. Davis's body lay along College Creek for hours, where people came to gawk at his ravaged body, even taking photographs that were turned into postcards for sale. In 2001, a group of citizens held a ceremony and installed a plaque in Brewer Hill Cemetery to memorialize Mr. Davis and other lynching victims from across Maryland. Then, in June of this year, Alderwoman Tierney and Alderwoman Pindell Charles introduced and the City Council approved a resolution apologizing for the lynchings that took place and expressing its support for the Equal Justice Initiative. We thank you deeply for proposing, considering, and approving this resolution. Building on those efforts, we believe the next step is to memorialize the horrific tragedy of Henry Davis's death and those of the other approximately 38 people lynched in Maryland, which have too often gone unacknowledged. We unite in direct contrast to the white Annapolitans from 1906 that terrorized and murdered Henry Davis in cold blood. We seek justice for all and call upon everyone to act for those who have been historically and continue to be denied justice, safety, and equality. This year, on December 21st, Connecting the Dots, along with several other co-sponsoring civil rights groups, will memorialize Mr. Davis and testify that we will never let something like this happen again. Never again should anyone have a family, member, friend, or neighbor lose their life to racism, from lynching to killings by police to institutionalized racism in all aspects of American life that deliberately and continually put Black people in harm's way. I am here tonight to invite you, as leaders and tone setters of our community, to that ceremony. Mr. Mayor and Alderman Payon, as representatives of the City of Annapolis and the ward where this tragedy took place, we invite you to speak briefly at the ceremony on December 21st. We also invite all other City Council representatives to honor Mr. Davis and all of the victims of racism with their presence at the ceremony, affirming your commitment to ensuring that this kind of racially motivated brutality ends once and for all. Your presence will speak volumes about your commitment to justice. Thank you.
Excuse me, where and what time?
It's December 21st.
Got
We'll
that.
be starting right down by the Foot Soldiers Memorial, assembling
Where
at
the old jail was.
6:15. Exactly, and then walking up West Street to the Brewer Hill Cemetery for a short ceremony there just after 7 o'clock
PM.
p.m. Yes.
I'll be there.
So
Thank
it
you.
starts at 7 at the Foot Soldiers Memorial?
6:15, we're going to meet at the Foot Soldiers, so that will give us time to just do kind of an invocation and walk up West Street, and that way, if some just want to meet right at Brewer Hill, you know, if they can't walk all the way, they can meet us there.
Fine. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Next speaker is Monica.
My name is Monica Lindsay, and I live in Annapolis, Maryland. I too am here representing Connecting the Dots Coalition. I want to extend an additional thank you for Alderwomen Pindell Charles and Tierney for their advocacy in the apology resolution. Tonight, by announcing the ceremony to memorialize Henry Davis, we are publicly recognizing the beginning of a partnership with the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project and the Equal Justice Initiative based in Montgomery, Alabama. In April, EJI opened the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, also known as the National Lynching Memorial. It is the nation's first memorial dedicated to the legacy of enslaved Black people, people terrorized by lynching, African Americans humiliated by racial segregation and Jim Crow, and people of color burdened with the contemporary presumptions of guilt and police violence. Through our partnership with EJI, we will bring a sculpture from the memorial in Montgomery to Anne Arundel County, thus creating a permanent means by which citizens can bear witness to our country's history of racial terror and lynching. Further, we will work to educate the community and our children about this dark segment of history of our city and county. It is only through learning about this history that our children can understand how it manifests today and work towards building a future that is free of racism, racial violence, and inequality. This partnership with EJI has been formally endorsed by a number of local organizations, including Women Indivisible, Strong and Effective, WISE, the Caucus of African American Leaders, Showing Up for Racial Justice, Annapolis and Anne Arundel County, Surge 3A, Action Annapolis, We Persist, and March on Maryland. Again, Mr. Mayor and Alderman Payon, we invite you to speak briefly at the ceremony, and we ask that all City Council representatives join us as we memorialize Mr. Davis and kick off this crucial initiative in partnership with the Equal Justice Initiative. We invite you all to join us for the Henry Davis Lynching Remembrance, A Path to Reconciliation, on December 21st at 6:15 p.m. at the Civil Rights Foot Soldiers Memorial as we embark on this path to healing. Confronting the truth about our history is a first step toward the long-held dream of recovery, reconciliation, and justice for all.
Thanks, Monica.
Thank you all.
I'm scheduled for 2 things, but I will be there. So.
Thank you. We Thank you.
Appreciate your presence.
Alderman Pendell-Charles. Oh, sorry. Did you want?
No, I just want to thank Monica and just indicate too that she is an educator at Old Mill High School. So
Yeah.
thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Monica. Well, I just want to mention, my colleague mentioned the old jail, and when I was doing the research, you know, for the resolution, and I went to the Maryland State Archives and looked at what happened, and that jail is not there anymore, but you have to think back, and he was in jail, and there was a crowd of white people that came, and they actually bashed down the door and dragged him out of the jail and then paraded him through the streets, and everybody hid, and it was fear, and that's what the lynchers wanted to instill in the community, was this fear, and it's fear to this present day, and I think that's what, you know, the answer is when somebody, and there were people that came up to me and said, well, what, you know, why is this prevalent now? I believe that fear still exists in creating this, you know, this unsaid racism. And I implore anyone to just Google Henry Davis and read that story. So I thank you for your efforts, and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Please come forward if you'd like to speak. State your name and address.
Good evening. Janet Norman, Ward 7 taxpayer, 787 Annapolis Neck Road. I don't have really prepared remarks tonight, but I came just wanting to speak about the needs of our students and about the adequate public facilities ordinance. I've served on the Annapolis Education Commission for the last 8 years, but I'm here tonight speaking for myself because, as council members Finlayson, Savage, and Pendell-Charles know, the commission doesn't have currently one unified thought on the APFO. We are struggling with the issues and wanting to find out more about what proposed amendments would do and make sure there's a full public hearing of the issue. I know that, you know, we're not experts in development, but we are the ones who know your education system well. And so you're only going to get good advice if you don't hear from just the developers at your hearings. So please keep our input informed, and I do agree that it needs to be urgently moved on. I'm heartened to hear that you plan on meeting with the new Board of Ed members, with 5 new elected and appointed members, the superintendent and others. Keep in mind that it's not just one classroom fix here and there to fix capacity. It's not adding one room. What I really would like you to be is there during school, during the change of classes. That's the exciting time when you're in the hallways with 2,000 pulsing kids. You know, break yourselves up, go individually so that you're not really protected by a big group, and just go with the flow and feel what it's like to be in a super packed high school. It does cause more problems when they're jostling each other, and you know, can trigger fights when they're so packed in there. So please get to know our high school. Rub elbows, feel it. The hallways are packed, and talk to the kids as well as the superintendent's view and what the Board of Ed members think. I've read the yearly educational facilities master's plans for the last decade. Keep in mind that those same plans stated that Hillsmere Elementary would be started by 2018 and completely renovated by 2021. We know that's off the table and down into the far future. The plans in the past have been overly optimistic projections from the school system, kind of their wish list of what they hoped would happen, not what the county was actually funding. So keep that in mind as you approve developments. Don't approve it based on the school system's wishful thinking, but what's really occurring. I don't know the exact answer on APF, but I appreciate that you don't want it to dig us deeper into a hole in capacity. With the excessive cutouts, even with good intentions of affordable housing and other purposes, that's going to hurt us, and it hurts our kids if it's too much. Eliminating the wide open status, if one capacity seat is open that a 600 unit project could come in, would be very wise of you. It's not a dichotomy of open closed, but it should be real capacity. I hope you're aware of the lead testing results from Annapolis Middle and Bates recently done. With a threshold at 20 parts per billion for violation, our Annapolis Middle School kitchen pot filling station had a test level of 1,420 parts per billion lead. How much were our kids exposed by this and the 5 or 6 other consumable fixtures in violation at each middle school? We don't really know. Hasn't been explained to the commission. The Annapolis Middle School PTSA just recently got someone from AACPS to come and talk to them about it, but ask those tough questions for us, please. If you know that the Board of Ed voted against testing our schools, the previous Board of Ed voted against testing the schools for lead, all of our schools, because they considered it an unfunded mandate. Our aging schools, like Annapolis Middle, built in 1964, all need, the schools across the county needed this lead testing. So we need you to speak up for us. Crofton High School didn't leapfrog the strategic funding plan by sitting quietly and patiently waiting. They spoke up en masse constantly, as we need you to do for us, relentlessly, and demand better. And when you speak to the school board, please ask them to rescind the new policy that disallows the public from providing oral testimony unless they're in the room, signed up when the meeting starts. At the last daytime meeting, I was there for 3.5 hours before public testimony began. And no one else in the room could give public testimony unless they had been there for the previous 3.5 hours signed up. That's just disrespectful to our citizens who have transportation challenges, other things in their busy lives. It was only because of a national day of mourning that I was able to be away from my job to be there at the school board to talk to them and advocate for the Community Ambassadors Program that Alderwoman Pindell Charles so carefully explained to us the need for that funding. So Dr. Arlotto is preparing his budget. He's going to release it next week. And we need you to impress upon him the need to fully fund those community ambassador programs. That's what, if you look at the new MSD reports on the website, they provide you the absentee rates for Annapolis High. Chronic absenteeism, 37.8% of our students have chronic absenteeism. Super high, highest of all the things. So we really need you to advocate and speak up and demand more out of our school system for our students and citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And
Thank you,
I
Ms.
still got some
Norman.
questions for you. My son's at Annapolis Middle, so that sounds really good.
Yeah. School lunch.
And he's going to Annapolis High next, so.
Excellent.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
I was just thanking Mrs. Norman for bringing to the attention about the Community Ambassadors Program. And we're working on the school system fully funding all 7 positions, which is $96,000. So rest assured, I'm working hard because I know my colleagues on the dais gave me an edict back in June.
Good.
So I've been working feverishly on that.
I know you have, and I just encourage them to raise their voices in a loud chorus.
And I had a conversation with the mayor about it as well, so.
Excellent.
Today.
Thank you.
Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Ms. Norman, for coming out. And I do want to just echo the statements about the Community Ambassador Program. You know, if you have a chance, Mr. Mayor, if you speak to Mr. Arlotto, remind him that we did pass that in the budget and expressed our support for that. And in terms of the lead, I think if there's anything we could do, I would definitely, if you need a resolution in support, I'd love to introduce something like that. I don't know if the mayor needs that or not, if you have a chance to talk to Mr. Arlotto. Which school did you say? It was at Annapolis Middle that had that? Okay. Yeah, that's crazy. So, and in terms of the Education Commission, I would like to try to pull in the commission into this discussion about the school capacity ordinance, the 0818, since it's been postponed. I know it's difficult for many of you to meet during the day, during our work session meetings, so I wonder if there's a way we could allow them to give a presentation or to have a dialogue with them at one of our January council meetings. Invite them to the table, and because I think even though you may not have developed consensus yet, I think it's still important to hear all sides, and you all are the education experts. So I know I, for one, definitely want to hear both sides and find out your experiences. I know you also have quite a bit of experience. Your sons who've gone to these schools, and like I said, I have my 8-year-old, and I want to try to get these addressed by the time he gets there. But so I guess that's it. So again, yeah, thank you for coming out. Appreciate it.
Anybody else present like to speak? Come forward. State your name, Matt, and your address. Thank you.
Matt Schatz, I live in Eastport, and I'm chairman of the board of the Downtown Partnership, and but I'm representing myself tonight. I just wanted to say real quick because I wasn't going to speak, but Alderman Arnett and Savage gave me a great segue on the postponements. I'm not speaking about anything in particular, and he said he had an 8-year-old, and it's what does babysitting have to do with that? And I remember when Alderman Charles had to give an impassioned apology to the Elks that came and all, that night. The postponements matter to a lot of folks, that have babysitters and homework, and you have first readers and second readers, and they don't know which meeting to come to. And it's what's babysitting cost nowadays. If you don't have $15 an hour after 10 p.m. on a weeknight, school's not. It does matter, and so you have to think about those, especially if you postpone 2 hours before a meeting because the political winds aren't going your way or whatever the reasons are. You have to think about those postponements and make sure if you are going to postpone, let everybody know way ahead of time as best you can, because there are small repercussions. They're not big, but add it all up, and I think it's one of the reasons why you'll hear from the same people that don't have kids, they're retirees, they can sit here all night, come every meeting. But if you've got kids and you're going to come first reader, second reader, committee meeting, and you've got something on the agenda and it keeps getting postponed and you don't know that till 11 p.m., you're like, what happened to it? So my other comment, and I mean this a little bit in humor, but just a little process part. And then the light thing. When your green comes up, some of the times it's summertime, if you start crying, you don't get more time. If you jump up and down, you shouldn't get more time. I mean, people are just as impassioned that don't, make that. And so your process does matter, I think. Just think about that a little bit. I'm not here to, I know you guys put in a tremendous effort. I know there's things on TV, there's other ways to access it, but the postponements matter, not just in the slowing the legislation down, which is important, but it matters to people that are here in the room, too. So that's it. I think you guys do great work.
Alderman Pindell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Matt, I appreciate you coming before us and letting us know about that. Sometimes things can't be helped, and
I know.
what we look at is, if there's a postponement tonight and we put people out because of babysitting issues, and I get that, in the long run, it's worth it that we don't have to go through many more hours of what we could have done if we had done it tonight.
Absolutely.
Then it would be saved on the front end rather than the back end. So that's what we try to do. We try to do the best job that we can. We don't always succeed,
I know.
but we do the best that we can.
And I don't want to be in your shoes either, so I have to respect that.
That's
So
all right.
I know it's hard work, it's a lot of hours.
Well,
I just
thank
wanted
you.
to point those out.
Absolutely, and thank
All
you
right,
so much.
thanks.
Anybody else like to come forward and speak? Seeing no motion in the chambers, I declare the comments by the general public closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is an update from the mayor.
Okay, I'll make it quick. Thank you. Tonight is our last City Council meeting of the year. I've only got like 10 pages, isn't it? Of the meeting of the year, and I would like to take a minute to sincerely wish my colleagues on the council happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. I would also like to take a moment to thank all of the men and women who work for the city, mostly behind the scenes, each and every day to provide outstanding service to the citizens of Annapolis. That's it for that. Last week we held a holiday open house and enjoyed the first week of Midnight Madness. I encourage everyone to try and shop local and support our friends and neighbours who are small business owners and are the backbone of our economy. We have 2 more Thursdays of Midnight Madness, so let's try and support these great businesses as much as we can. We collected 387 pounds of food donated at the Chocolate Festival. We also would like to thank our bicycling advocates for an awesome lighted bike parade around downtown during Thursday's Midnight Madness. Did anybody see that? If you saw that with your hands up, it was awesome. Yeah. This event happened just after we found out that the League of American Bicyclists has awarded Annapolis and Anne Arundel County a bronze rating for being a bicycle-friendly community. Thank you, Bike. Thank you, Bike AAA, for your work to help us achieve this ranking. And let's thank the Eastport Yacht Club for its wonderful lights parade. This event has become such an amazing yearly tradition for families and visitors. Congratulations, Robert Waldron and the crew of Defiant for winning the best show for their Nutcracker-themed display. And I would also like to thank members of the Annapolis Fire Department, the Anne Arundel Fire Department, and all the fire department volunteers for a wonderful Santa run yesterday. It was freezing in that convertible fire engine, but it was awesome. The crew visited neighborhoods throughout Annapolis, both in the city and the county, to collect more than 1,000 toys, helping ensure that every child has a Merry Christmas. I want to do that for you guys. And that's me keeping it short. Thank you. All right, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar include approval of journal of proceedings, CCM 111918, regular meeting minutes, CCM 112618, special meeting minutes. Business and miscellaneous, ID-315-18, proposed 2019 City Council work session dates. SA-35-19, fund, reforestation, fund source of surplus funds, non-critical area fee in lieu of planting revenue, fund source of surplus funds, non-critical area fee in lieu of planting expenditure, tree planting contract services fund, general source of funds, Domino's Pizza LLC revenue, traffic impact study expenditure, P&Z contract services expense. SA-36-19, Fund, General, Source of Funds, Domino's Pizza LLC revenue, traffic impact study expenditure, P&Z contract services expense. First readers, CA-2-18, Aldermanic titles, charter updates, refer to the Rules and City Government Committee. O-47-18, special events, refer to the Environmental Matters Committee and the Transportation Committee. R-50-18, City of Annapolis Police and Fire Retirement Fund, 2018 amendment and restatement. And that concludes the consent calendar items.
Okay, are there any objections to any items on the consent calendar? Alderman Arnett.
Just a point of order, Mr. Mayor. I just looked at the agenda, and it doesn't have the council work session dates. It has the council meeting dates as our attachment. So we need to find out when the council work session dates are. I only have in my attachment the council meeting dates.
That's all I've got.
So we might want to, unless we can get
Shall
a
we
copy
approve
of
it?
it. But do we need to approve it? Well, it'd be nice to know what it is before we approve it.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like it's perfectly accurate for our regular council meeting dates.
We have two items on the agenda. One under business is the city council approves the mayor's proposed meeting dates, and then on the consent calendar are the work session dates, and if you hit the link, you should have the work session dates.
So in the consent calendar, it says proposed city council work session dates, but the attachment is the city council meeting dates. So
How do
can
you
we
wanna fix
get
that?
quickly, take it off the consent calendar, get a hard copy, and put it on the regular agenda to approve them? I would make the motion that we remove that item from the consent calendar, put it on the regular agenda so we can vote to approve it.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right.
Yep.
All those in favour? Say aye.
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 Opposed? No? So we'll come back on that. So we're going to vote on this now. Madam City Clerk?
Now, which one are we voting on?
We are voting on the consent calendar as amended
Oh.
with the work session dates from. Okay. Mayor Buckley,
Yes?
Alderman Rodriguez,
Aye.
Alderman Henson. Aye. Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon.
Aye.
Alderman Kendall Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Finlay.
Aye.
Yeah, we'll do that last.
Okay, we'll come back to that. And for the last thing, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is business and miscellaneous items, beginning with ID-306-18, Mayor's proposed 2019 City Council meeting dates.
This time I would entertain a motion to approve the proposed 2019 City Council meeting dates.
So moved.
Mr. Mayor, you have one friendly amendment.
Question?
Second.
In looking at the dates, in looking at the dates, the Monday, November 11, Veterans Day, move to Tuesday, November 12, rather than being a special meeting, would be a regular meeting upon the vote of this body.
Say that again, please?
Could you repeat that?
Sure. The regular meeting in November is ordinarily November 11. However, that's Veterans Day. The proposal is that the meeting be moved to Tuesday, November 12. The item indicates presently special meeting. That would be a regular meeting upon the vote of this council to approve this item.
Oh, okay. All right with that? Okay. Okay, all those
I have
in,
another
No,
question.
No, I have a question.
okay, Alderman Finlayson?
I'm looking at what's on the iPad, and I'm looking at what we have a hard copy of. For the March date, Monday, March 25th, Maryland Day, maybe it's insignificant. That's not on the copy on the iPads. Does it matter?
The copy on your desk is the correct copy.
Okay, so this,
The Maryland 20, is a holiday, and that's why it's labeled that day. We can't meet on that day further.
right. So the date will be on Tuesday, the 26th?
Yes.
Okay.
Teresa can speak to the Tuesday.
If I might, so what is attached in Legistar has Monday, March 25th, not Tuesday, March 26th.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
That was my
They have
question.
an updated copy on their desk.
Okay, so the correct date is Monday, March
No,
Tuesday, March 26th.
Yes.
Okay.
Lunch Group A.
Okay.
Yeah, Tuesday, March 26th.
Yes.
Alderman Pendle Charles?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had sent an email around to everyone. I cannot make the Tuesday, November 12th meeting. I have a mandatory PTA meeting at my school. We have always, since I've been on the city council, made adjustments for even one person if they have a problem. And I'm requesting that we change that date. Or if that meeting is at 7, I saw somewhere in here that we had a meeting earlier in the day. I can make it earlier in the day. The Monday, June 10th meeting is at 10 a.m. I can make the 10 a.m. Time if we change it to 10 a.m. instead of 7 p.m. on Tuesday, November the 12th.
What were the dates again, please?
Tuesday, November the 12th. I cannot make it. I have a mandatory
What ones
PTA.
can you make?
I can make the same day, just make it at 10 in the morning instead of at 7. My PTA meeting is at 6:30 to 8 or 8:30.
Would it matter if it was an afternoon meeting, a 1 o'clock meeting?
That'll work.
Just to give flexibility to.
I was just
whomever.
asking about 10 because we had another one at 10. So.
Have you ever done a council meeting at that time?
Mr.
we
Mayor,
make it
could we
7:30
pull
in the morning?
pull that date out and kind of poll the council at another time? I mean, because we are talking about November, so we're talking 11 months away. We've got a little bit of time. So we can kind of poll and see what's the best time that works for everybody?
I mean, I think, yep, sure. Make a motion, do you have to make a motion to do that, or not?
I'll make a motion to pull the November 12th meeting off of the agenda
I'll second that.
Discussion from Alderwoman
until we
Henson.
determine a time.
Okay, let's do that. Thank you.
Alderwoman Henson has a
Mr.
question.
Mayor?
Thank you.
Mayor, I just wanted to discuss, who proposed the dates? Was there any reason why we were not having them on sequential Mondays like we did this year?
I did. I put together the calendar. I sent you all an email about it. When you go from one Monday right to the next Monday, it really jams up the staff, and it makes it difficult for us to get staff reports, fiscal notes, minutes, other things done on a timely basis. So we were trying to leave about 2 weeks between each meeting. So if the Monday was a holiday, we were proposing to have the meeting on a Tuesday.
Is there no way to kind of, account for that and try to reduce the workload on the agenda to try to make sure we streamline it so that when we are returning 1 week later, we try to not have so many things on the agenda? Is there a way to kind of not pad so many things on there so that when we return the next week, it's not so many things that are coming back?
Okay, with the final, if you have a back-to-back meeting with the final agenda going out on the Friday right after the meeting, and then the agenda to the council going out the Friday right after you finish your Monday city council meeting, our final agenda goes out on Wednesday. If you guys have any meetings in there, none of that information will be connected, your amendments, any of that stuff, because we're in the middle of starting another agenda while you're just finishing up your meetings. So it wouldn't be adequate information for us to provide to you at your next meeting. It just doesn't work that way, because we have to do the minutes, they roll over, it posts in there when you see, well, the housing committee voted this way on this amendment, that stuff wouldn't show up in your packets. so we would not have a complete packet for you. It just doesn't work.
Teresa, how many Tuesdays are we talking about?
Bad habit to change the Tuesday to.
It look, based on my copy that I'm reading here, it looks as if there's one of the Tuesdays is May 28th.
Four.
No, and then September's changed to
It looks like there's a March 26th Tuesday. It looks like there's a September 10 Tuesday after Labor Day, and the November 12 one that Alderwoman Pindell Charles was mentioning earlier.
So you do it at the county, Teresa?
Yes, at the county, if county council meeting would fall on a Monday, and the Monday is a holiday, it falls on the next day on a Tuesday.
Mr. Mayor, I don't think we're ready to approve these, to be honest with you, because I think there's a lot of discussion about,
Well, can I just
Tuesday
say
dates.
something? You guys, we have to publish your meeting dates for not just for your purpose, for the citizens. They have to know when you're meeting. And they contact us, they know when you meet Monday.
Right.
We have to schedule the meeting so that everybody here can schedule their other meetings, like the mayor, for instance. If you schedule a city council meeting during the day at 10 o'clock, most of the staff, and it's not just because of us, but most of the staff have meeting things going on already during the day that are already on the calendar. So these things might conflict with scheduling a meeting, because we might not have a quorum for work purposes. Some people have, like, to go to work. So, I mean, you can still discuss it, but I'm just saying that we try to stretch it out so you can have the most information that we can provide to you as soon as possible.
Alderman Pound?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we ought to just go ahead and, and vote on this. I think approve it, and look, if we need to make any changes as we go along, we'll just make the changes. We've done it before. Not often, but we have done it before. Let's just go ahead. Obviously, we have a problem with November the 12th. We can figure it out in 11 months.
And another thing, your standing committee dates kind of work with this stuff too. So if you change it to another day during the week, you have to realize that the standing committees may already be meeting at that time. So just FYI. That's why Teresa did a good job with the calendar, I think. So, sorry.
I need
City Attorney?
Just so you know, it's in your discretion. On the November 12th date, it seems like is the date that really is kind of in play. It's in your discretion to decide another day, another hour of the day for that particular meeting.
Alderman Savage?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna point out that, another option we could talk about at some point would be we could just meet once in November on the 25th. We don't have to have a special meeting every month. It's at the call of the will of the mayor, I believe.
I like the way you're talking, Rob.
I like the way he thinks, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Arnett?
Remember that, Rob, what he said.
I agree with Rhonda that we always have made accommodations for our colleagues, and I propose that we meet at 6 a.m. on the 12th.
Like I said, I don't have a problem with the
So we're gonna
12th
motion
except
the
for
floor,
the evening meeting. We can meet anytime, including 6 a.m. That'll be fine with me. I just gotta get to that PTA meeting.
So, Alderman Turney?
Is there a motion on the floor
There's a
to
motion on the floor
approve?
to approve it without the one date we were
Yes.
deciding on for Rhonda.
I'd like to
But
second
It
that.
looks like there might be more to it than that, right? Yeah?
Can I second that?
Yeah.
I second that. Subject to the one date that my colleague, we can work,
12.
we can figure out
Meeting
what we're
date.
gonna do there.
Okay, let's take a vote on that.
So we're gonna vote on the schedule as is, except we're gonna take out the Tuesday, November the 12th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, all those in favour, say aye.
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 Against? No one against, okay.
Hey, we accomplished something, come on.
You do have your work session scheduled. You do have your work session scheduled.
Mr. City Attorney?
We do need, though, to find some time, somewhere before November, to schedule that regular meeting. We are required to have a regular meeting. while you all can change the date or hour of the day, we will have to find a slot for that regular meeting. Just wanted to put that on your parking lot list.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, the city attorney just said November has to have a regular meeting, and this thing does not say regular meeting at all.
I mentioned earlier that if we were to vote on this tonight, it would be regular.
Done. We'll work it out. All right, thank you.
Okay, so, I believe we're on, okay. The next item on the agenda is public hearings, beginning with ordinance 043-18 supplemental allocations for the purpose of authorizing the city manager to transfer funds in the annual operating budget under certain circumstances.
We have no speakers.
Are we listed to speak on this? Okay. So seeing no motion in the chambers, I declare the public hearing on 043-18 closed. Mr. City Attorney, you're going to do this one here.
The next item on the agenda is ordinance 045-18, fair housing, unlawful housing practices, for the purpose of including a Section 8 housing choice voucher holder as one of the protected categories under the City of Annapolis fair housing laws.
Okay, we have two people signed up to speak. First is Jesse Keller. Please come forward, state your name and address. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Buckley and members of the Annapolis City Council. My name is Jessie Keller. I currently reside at 20 East Heath Street in Baltimore, but I was born and raised in Annapolis, so it's great to be here. I'm here on behalf of Maryland Multi-Housing Association, which is a professional trade association consisting of owners and managers of more than 190,000 rental housing homes in more than 800 apartment communities statewide. In the city of Annapolis, MMHA members represent over 3,200 units. We come before you requesting a favorable report with amendments to Ordinance 45-18. With me and present at my request is Kathy Howard, General Counsel for Regional Management, and Kathy will detail our position. Kathy.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. We thank the sponsor.
Please state your name and address, please.
Yes, address is 11 East Fayette Street, Baltimore, Maryland. I'm the Legislative Committee Chair for the Maryland Multi-Housing Association, which is why I get to be the witness here tonight, instead of getting to do introductions and sitting down. But anyway, I'm very happy to be here this evening to discuss the bill with you, and I thank the sponsor for bringing her clarifying amendments to our attention. We are aware that the City of Annapolis has had a source of income provision in their city code for many years. This clarification, I understand the motivation for it. One of the things while we're in the process of clarifying that law, three things that we as multi-housing rental property managers would additionally like to see clarified are listed in our written testimony, which I believe that Ms. Keller just gave to you. The first one of those is to clarify the issue of a gift as a source of income. A gift is often used in the process of buying a home where you can have a gift that will help you get through the income allocation mortgage process. However, when it comes to a rental property where the landlord is looking at a sustainable monthly income in order to determine whether or not a person can qualify for an apartment or not. A gift, which is generally speaking a one-time item, is not something that we would consider as income, and we would be very much appreciative if there was a clarification made while we're doing clarifications of this particular law to either strike gift or to indicate that a gift is an acceptable source of income in a sales transaction only. The second clarification that we would be concerned about or asking for is to strike to clarify the sale of pledge or pledge of property. Again, this is a situation that is typical in the sale process, but with regard to the rental of property, a pledge of property or in the context of trying to determine a person's income or the potential sale of a property that has not happened yet when you're trying to rent property is a problem for landlords, because this is not something that is actually in the hands of the applicant. If it is, if it's a sale transaction, that's fine, but if it's a rental transaction, we would like it clarified that this does not apply to residential. This pledge or sale of property does not apply to the residential rental property transactions. Those were basically, let's see, the other clarification, and I think this is just a linguistic issue. Being a voucher holder is not really a condition, it's really a source of income. And what I would suggest, if we want to make sure that it's not considered a condition of the person's actual being, which may sort of blur the line of whether or not it's a source of income or not that should be considered in the course of determining whether someone has enough income to rent a property, would just be to simply strike the language, the condition of, and just say being a recipient of a voucher is something that you can't discriminate on, and just clarifying that. So those are our three amendments, and those are the reasons why. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
Alderman Henson?
Thank you. Thank you for your thoughtful analysis and for going through the legislation. I had the opportunity to speak with one of your representatives, and I did ask them for some data points. It's my understanding that you all represent some of our multi-dwelling apartment communities here in Annapolis. I asked them to pull some data on how many of your units currently have residents that receive or Section 8 vouchers, just to see if, because we hear anecdotally from people who have difficulty using their Section 8 voucher, and to see if the statistics bear that out as well. And I didn't hear back from them with numbers on that.
I haven't heard back from him on that either, but I know that he is working on that. I think it's a matter of him getting the information from the membership that it does have rental property here in Annapolis, and we will definitely get that information to you. And I think that one of the things that I think it does to bear in mind is that oftentimes the voucher amount may or may not cover all of the rent, the amount of rent that's being asked for the particular units. It's all based on a formula of market rent and where the market is. And I'm not sure, I believe in Annapolis, in the city of Annapolis, I think that you factor in not just city rentals, but there may be a regional kind of analysis, and I think that may be why he's having trouble getting some of the information. But we will make sure we do. Get it to you.
I look forward to it. I think sometimes there's a perception that the voucher is not meeting the market, but I would like to have the statistics, because sometimes we're surprised when we have the actual data, how our perceptions are validated or how our perceptions are invalidated once we have the data. So I'd look forward to taking a look at that. With regard to the gifts, the family law article defines gifts as income. The HUD, the FHA guidelines define gifts as income. Gifts are defined as income in a number of ways and in a number of places. And if we are going to use gifts as income when we are assessing child support against someone, or use gifts as income in other means and areas, I think it's fair to use gifts as income when we're calculating what rent a person is eligible for. I think it can be particularly useful, and it leaves the landlord some discretion, but if you're talking about a security deposit, so sometimes there are one-off transactions in the course of renting where using gift income could be appropriate. So it's not appropriate in every circumstance, but when I had it in there, I envisioned it sometimes more for the one-off transaction, like a security deposit. So
And if
that's
we-
why I found it inclusive there.
And if we added those if we added that clarification that it would be for a one-time, a gift would be considered income for a one-time transaction within the rental transaction itself, that would be fine. What we're concerned about is that a gift, as you say, it is kind of it is often and most likely a one-time it's a gift, it's one-time transaction. If it's useful for a security deposit, that's fine, and you can use that income to suffice for that. But in order to use it for the sustaining of the entire lease, which is generally a 12-month lease, and it's not really something that is a repeating kind of type of income as a voucher would be, or as some other type of lots of child support, something that is supposed to come in on a monthly basis, that's what we're concerned about, making sure that that's clarified.
Thank you. I definitely will take that under consideration and look at the comments that you've given there. Hopefully you understand.
Oh, I do.
What the genesis of that was and kind of how I envision that being used there. But I appreciate you going through and giving it a review and offering your testimony.
Great, thank you. We appreciate you sponsoring the bill.
Thanks.
Alderman Pindell-Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Ms. Kelly, Catherine Kelly Howard. I would like to thank you for your service. I recall when you were president of our Maryland State Bar Association.
Yes, well, thank you very much. That was a little while ago.
It's a little while ago, but that's good.
Thank
you
very
so much.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on O-45-18? Okay, I declare the public hearing on O-45-18 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is ordinance O-46-18, modification of use of unexpended proceeds of certain of the city's general obligation bonds for the purpose of modifying the use of unexpended proceeds of the city's public improvement bonds 2011 Series B, the city's public improvements bonds 2012 series, the city's public improvements bonds 2013 series, the city's public improvements bonds 2015 Series A, and the city's public improvements bonds 2016 Series A tax exempt.
No one signed up to speak for O-46-18. Is anybody out there like to speak? Okay. I declare the public hearing on O-46-18 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is legislative action on second reader, beginning with ordinance O-46-18, modification of use of unexpended proceeds of certain of the city's general obligation bonds for the purpose of modifying the use of unexpended proceeds of the city's public improvement bonds 2011 Series B, the city's public improvement bonds 2012 series, the city's public improvement bonds 2013 series, the city's public improvement bonds 2015 Series A, and the city's public improvement bonds 2016 Series A tax exempt.
Is there a motion? Okay, a second? Okay, discussion? Alderman Savage.
Sorry, don't we need to suspend the rules to go right from public hearing to second reader? For this ordinance?
Legislative action.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ready? All those in favour, say aye. Oh, are you talking? Oh. I don't want Dave Stokes screaming at me. No.
Haven't made your quota of words for the night yet, or what?
We don't upset the chief over there. Come Okay, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? No? All right, on to the... Is there a motion to adopt... is there a motion to adopt O-46-18 on third reader?
Second.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes?
Alderman Rodriguez? Alderman Henson? Aye. Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Let's see. Aye.
Anything you want to say, Chief? Yay! All right, we made the Chief happy. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is ordinance O-41-18, emergency procurement, for the purpose of authorizing the appropriation of funds for an emergency procurement and for establishing a procedure for the procurement of goods and services during an emergency.
Is there a motion to adopt O-41-18 on second reader?
So moved.
Second. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Is there a motion to adopt O-41-18 on third reader?
Second.
Second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez?
See.
Alderman Henson? Aye. Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
I don't like everything about it, but I'm an aye.
Alderman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
All right. That's good. Passes. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is ordinance O-29-18, lease of Truxton Park to Kayak Annapolis LLC, for the purpose of approving the lease of certain city-owned property at Truxton Park to authorize the operation of a kayak water touring business and matters generally relating to said lease.
Is there a motion to adopt O-29-18 on second reader?
So moved.
Second.
Shanika, Alderwoman Henson.
I would like to thank my colleagues for your patience on allowing me to postpone this at our last meeting. I have accepted the scolding from the audience on postponements, heard loud and clear today. I would like to thank our harbor master on the detailed information and getting back to me with the comparative analysis on similarly situated leases and the prices that they are offered for, and then also reaching out to the folks that operate the business of Kayak Annapolis on the particulars of what their community outreach is like, and then the owners of Kayak Annapolis agreeing to even go further with their community outreach. Hopefully maybe our summer camp, our pop-up camp initiatives, maybe other things would be a good opportunity for community outreach so that even more folks could enjoy what they do. That happens to be in Truxton Park, is in Ward 6, and it's something that I see and frequent there often, so I appreciate everyone and their patience for allowing me to get just a few more data points so that it could inform my decision today, and I do have everything I need to vote on that today. Thank you.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to, in addition to the pop-up camps this summer, as a kind of a pilot, Ms. Bellis took out 3 children from Eastport Terrace and Harbor House out, and I think she had more fun than they did. But they had a great time. She allowed them to, steer the boat and take it out on their own, and they were thrilled. And Mr. Fisher from Hacker is thrilled, and he wants to go out himself. So next year, Ms. Bellis, every time I see her, she has more and more to say about it, and she really wants to take more children out next summer. So that's definitely on the radar.
I think we could do some team building with the council. All 9 of us could go out paddling. What do you think of that?
In one kayak.
Okay, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Passes. Is there a motion to adopt O-29-18 on third reader?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favour? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll. Sorry.
Sure. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Aye.
Alderwoman Henson?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
All right, passes. Keep up the good work, guys. When you're out there, one of the boats ran into my pontoon boat at the Parade of Lights. You could just check out that dent, because it looks pretty big and I haven't been out there yet, so. Next year we're in it, yeah.
Absolutely, Mayor, the entire council can come out whenever.
All right.
Except on November 12th.
That'd be, I think there'll be some team building there. It'd be awesome, right? Yeah. That'd be a great photo, you know.
It's the job that pays.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is ordinance 0818.
No, that's not on it.
No, I was just trying to communicate with our city clerk to make sure that was still on the agenda.
The next item is the ID, the approval of the work session date.
Right, so we move down to, actually, after 018.
You got
It's the work session dates.
Okay. So, that's from the consent calendar, right?
ID 350.
Right, okay. All right. I beg your pardon, everyone. I just want to make sure that we're clear on what the next item is. And the next item is ID-31518, proposed 2019 City Council work session dates, which came from the consent calendar.
So move. Second, is there any?
Second.
Okay, all those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
If I have my agenda correct,
You do.
the agenda has been completed.
Is there anything else for good order? Alderman Pound?
Mr. Mayor, I Saturday went up to Philadelphia and witnessed that debacle, but next year I'm very hopeful that we will make up for it, and Navy will once again find its rightful place over the Army next year. I understand they're starting today. After that soliloquy, I'd move that we adjourn.
All right. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Happy
Here we go.
holidays to
Happy
everyone.
holiday, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Go
Thank
say the
you,
same
everybody who
thing.
came out. Thank you.
Mark, can I see you?